Hi, TC Doyle, again reporting for a partner. You're listening to another edition of Lessons from the Edge. Today, we're going to be talking data, and we have just the right individual to talk with us today. It is Cassandra Gholston. She is the co-founder, CEO of PartnerTap. Cassandra, welcome today.
Thanks for having me, TC.
It's terrific to see you. I want to ask you about data, as I mentioned. I want to talk a little bit about your organization. So for those that don't know PartnerTap, give us a little bit of its history and the role that you guys fulfill in the marketplace today.
Great. So PartnerTap has been around now for over 4 years. And, we started out of the need of, enterprise sales professionals that were working in large ecosystems, trying to sell with partners. And, I personally lived in that world where we were trying to figure out who is the right partner for this account, who inside of these other large organizations can I work with? And I was always that person that was annoying the channel manager saying, can you please just give me the reps that are in my territory? And it was out of that pain that really PartnerTap was born. And, out of our customers really that were connecting sales teams, we really started to see that there was a bigger need for channel and, channel that needed to do data sharing at scale. And really, even if it wasn't a sell with motion, it was, a co-marketing motion. And so really looking at, large pipes of data and where we can really get the best accounts that we're marketing to, and we're having, the partner follow up because we know the partners on the other side that should be following up on these campaigns. So that's been an evolution of PartnerTap.
Very good. All right, let's shift to some of the trends you see happen in the marketplace. You deal with big vendors all the time and some fast rising disruptors as well. Talk about some of the things they're looking for from you that are different.
I think we are seeing a major shift in organizations, especially at the top, understanding that channel can make a huge impact on the organization if they're given the right tools. So, all of our companies are using a PRM system, period. You have to have that to run a channel, period. Right? So all of our customers do. You're not going to be able to drive revenue through your channel if you're running it on a spreadsheet. It's just not going to happen. And I think the companies that really understand that, hey, if we can tap into this wide ecosystem of partners and we can, get the right content, we can get the right pipeline generated, we have a means to track that, they're going to win. And if you're not thinking about that, your competitor has already done it.
All right, let's get to the topic at hand today, data. You'd think that data and partnering would go hand in hand in many organizations, but that simply isn't the case. So why do so many companies get the basics of data collection, sharing, access, et cetera, so wrong?
I think that companies, most large organizations have always been sharing data, but there's only been one way to share that data, and it's manual. And so how do we try to take massive scale of data and share it? You really can't do that. So we've got all these people inside of the channel and on the ground floor of the sales teams that are really mapping around accounts. And there's just no other way to do this than to do it manually. So you can only do so much. So, if I'm a mid-market size company, I really don't have the team of people to do this. But if I'm, the Cisco's, the HPEs, the Microsofts, I've got teams of people that are definitely mapping data all over.
Yeah. So let's talk about the data. A lot of the companies that we work with are moving into a channel for the first time. They're not seasoned channel veterans. This is a new go-to-market motion for them. And in some instances, they don't have the total scope of all the data pieces that it takes to run a successful channel program today. So walk us through, what are the different data sets? Where are they stored typically? Who has access? Give us some of those basics.
So when I think about data sharing, I think about it in three buckets, because we're all about revenue drivers. So I think about pre-pipeline data sharing. I think about pipeline data sharing. And then I think about closed won, sales that we've done data sharing. So this pre-pipeline data sharing, this is all about how are we generating pipeline? How are we running large, co-branded marketing? How are we, if we have a co-sell or motion, how are we getting sales teams connected around the right accounts? So that's what I'm talking about with pre-pipeline data sharing. So all that data, if we had access to it and we got the right people around it, we're going to drive more pipeline, right? And so then I think about pipeline, and this is where, organizations might be a little bit more secure around the partners that they're willing to share and what they're willing to share, right? But everybody needs to have access to, the pipeline that our partners are in, or the pipeline that the partners are generating for us as the vendor potentially. And so that data sharing is happening, but it also is happening very manually. And then in the closed opportunities, so what actually did close and what do we need to pay on? And that oftentimes is very manual too.
A lot of different data buckets. Now I'm starting to realize the scope of it. So within a vendor organization, who typically is responsible for the securitization, the privacy, the putting the data to use? Who owns the data in most companies?
Your customer and your prospect information is owned by you, the vendor, and the partner also has their own data. And it's all living inside of a company's CRM system. So the data is very siloed. And so how do we get things to operate where we can share in a way that is secure, that is taking care of, GDPR, CCPA, and we're not out of compliance, knowing that most organizations today that are driving revenue through their channels are sharing data on spreadsheets. So this type of information is going across organizations and it's going over email, and we're not getting the right information oftentimes. So there's a lot of manual effort. So I think data security is big, and we need to be careful about what we're sharing, what our partners are seeing, so that we aren't out of compliance.
That's a big wow to me, given the fact that, we sell to a lot of organizations that are really sophisticated in their use of automation, their use of different modules, their use of technology. But to hear that a lot of stuff is still being shared via spreadsheet, which brings me to the next question, which is partners today, regardless of the means in which they share, they're very reluctant to give vendors their data until that level of loyalty and trust is built. So walk us through some of the considerations about what is realistic for a vendor to expect and when.
So TC, you hit the nail on the head. It's all about trust. And this is a human to human relationship. So it doesn't matter if our companies have been partnered since the dawn of the ages. If these two humans that are building co-marketing or are selling with or are driving revenue in the channel together across their organizations, if there is no trust there between those two humans, we're not going to share data. And so that's what it all comes down to. It comes down to, do I trust you that you're going to do the right thing with this information? And the right thing is driving revenue between these organizations, period. So you have to build that trust, and it is a constant thing. It needs to be built, the channel, it needs to be built with everybody that is working inside of these two partner companies.
Yeah. Well, you're a member of the Impartner Channel Advisory Board, and fellow members often are in the position of advising vendors on the structure, the rules and terms and conditions of their programs. And this conversation comes up that a lot of vendors miscue from the get-go by baking in unrealistic expectations of data sharing and other things that are going to happen. And, if they don't only listen to more CCAB members like yourself. Okay, let's talk more about data. Everyone claims they need access, but reality suggests otherwise. What are the common mistakes people make when it comes to handling, securing, and using partner data?
So I think the number one thing is that how do we action this data? And if I'm just providing you with a list of accounts, let's say, that we're going to go market on, is that the right list, between our two companies? Are these the right accounts that have a high propensity to buy, that there's some influence on either side? We don't know that. So oftentimes companies are really going blind into who they're marketing to or what accounts they're getting sales teams rallied around. And so without that, double blind mapping, we really don't know if we're hitting the right targets. And so I think companies that, have built great trust and are really sharing data so that they can understand where they should be spending time in those pre-pipeline activities or in the pipeline activities, those are the companies that are winning today.
What other changes? What are you reading? What are you seeing today that's influencing your thinking? A book, a video, a blog, a podcast? Who's influencing you today?
You know what? As the CEO of this company, the number one community that influences my thinking 100% is the customer. And that's the reason why we've selected Impartner as our go-to-market partner, is because that's the way that Impartner is too. It's all about the customer. I mean, I'm on calls with your product team, with Mark Rogers in alliances, and they're all talking about where the customer is going and how we need to deliver products that support the customer's challenges. So honestly, that's where I get fueled for what we need to be building and where we need to be driving innovation.
That's always a good place to start and end. And unfortunately, we're at the end of our time. We've been chatting with Cassandra Gholston. She's the founder and CEO of PartnerTap. Cassandra, thank you for spending time with us today.
Thank you, TC.
This is TC Doyle. You've been listening to another edition of Lessons from the Edge. Thanks for tuning in.